In this video, I'll be showing you how to build a goal planner for 2025 using the SMART strategy. SMART is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. It's designed to help you set goals and then actually achieve them. I've built this goal planner within Notion that applies the concepts of SMART to help make setting and achieving goals even easier. Firstly, let's take a tour of the goal planner, then I'll show you how to build it from scratch. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss any upcoming videos. So here is the goal planner that I'm going to be showing you how to build today. So each of these little cards represents one of the goals that you're going to set for yourself this year. And as you can see, they're currently being grouped in these columns, which are based on the quarter of the year. And I've also set up a handy formula that will actually work that out for you, so you don't have to input which quarter of the year each goal is for. You simply just add a deadline and the Notion template will do the rest. I've also added some handy formulas that will show your progress as a progress bar like this, and a handy formula that will show the progress in text form, and once you've achieved the goal it will automatically change to say congrats, you've achieved your goal. So you don't have to add any of this manually yourself, the formula will simply do all of this for you. And the way that I've incorporated SMART into this is if you actually click on one of the goals, you will see this template appear here, and this will allow you to outline exactly how you're going to achieve the goal using the SMART framework. And I will go into that a little bit more as we build the template, but this is what it will look like. You will simply fill out and answer these questions to plan out how you're going to achieve that goal. So this is what we're going to be building today, and in the rest of the video I'll be showing you how to build it completely from scratch. So I've just set up a brand new page in Notion. I've named this page Goal Planner. I've chosen this target emoji, and I've also just added a cover photo, but that's all we've done so far. So the first thing we're going to do on the page is add a brand new database. So I'm just going to type /database and select database inline. We're then going to give the database a name. Let's just call it Goal Planner, but you can give it any name you like. And I am actually just going to hide the title as we already have that as the name of the page. So I'm going to click on the three dots and just hide the database title so it looks a little bit better. Now in the first column here, this is where we're going to add the name of the goal. So I'm just going to add in a couple of examples. So for example, you might want to save $10,000. So that can be our first one, and I'll just add a couple more. The next step is optional, but if you do want to make these look a little bit more unique, you can choose an icon for each of your goals. So to do that, let's start with the first one. I'm going to click on these 6 dots here next to it and select Edit Icon. Now you can choose an emoji from the emoji library, or we can choose one of Notion's icons, which I prefer. So I'm going to use one of these. So I think for save $10,000, let's choose this currency icon here. And I'm actually going to pick a different icon for each of the different goals. So as you can see, it just looks a little bit more interesting with the different icons. Next, we're going to go about adding the SMART system. So this is actually what SMART stands for. So I just wanted to give a little breakdown of what SMART actually means before we start applying that to the template. So the S in SMART stands for specific, and that means that the desired outcome is clearly defined. So as an example, you want to include a specific number or goal. So instead of just saying that you want to lose weight this year as your goal, you would want to set a specific amount of weight that you want to lose, for example 10 pounds. The M stands for measurable, and this means that there must be an objective way to measure your progress, such as a deadline, a number, or a percent change. So for example, instead of just saying that you want to be able to lift more heavy weights, you want to be able to measure that you've done it, so there might be a specific weight that you want to be able to lift. The A stands for achievable, so this just means that the goal should be realistic and actually within your capability. So there's no point trying to say you want to save $100,000 if you just know that you physically cannot save that much as your salary or your income isn't high enough. So it should push you to be your best, but it shouldn't be so distant that you aren't even motivated to try. The R stands for relevant, so this means that the goal actually matters to you and aligns with your overall objective. So just think about what you actually want from life, and does this goal actually align with that? And finally, time bound, so there should always be a deadline set for completion. It should never be an open-ended goal, there should be a specific deadline that you work towards. So that is the SMART system. Now we're actually going to go about applying that into our template. Just before we jump back to the tutorial, I want to let you know about my second brain template. This powerful productivity system is the best way to organize your tasks tasks, notes, projects, and goals, and is based on productivity methods that actually work. Hundreds of people have already purchased the template and are now more productive than ever. It also has tons of 5-star reviews from people that have used it. I'll leave a link in the description box below if you're interested. That's all, back to the tutorial. We're going to now add a default template that is going to be added to every single page, and this is where we can apply the SMART concept to each individual goal. So to add a template, we're going to click on this little downward arrow here next to the new button and click new template. Now you can leave the title blank as that's just going to be the name of the goal, and in here this is where we're going to add our template. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a toggle. Now if you just add one of these brackets like this and a space, it will add a toggle. And I'm just going to name this SMART. Let's also just highlight this and bold it. And in here I'm just going to paste the SMART outline that I just showed you. So I'm just going to go back to that page. So this is what I just showed you. So I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to paste it inside this toggle. So I can open and close my toggle just to see exactly what these different things mean. So it's just useful to be able to have a look at that if you ever forget what each one of the letters stands for. So don't worry, I'm going to leave a link to this template in the description if you want to just copy and paste this directly rather than typing it all out. So let's just close the toggle for now. So now I'm just going to input the rest of the template. So we're going to start by adding a heading for each letter of SMART. So I'm going to type /H1 and grab this heading 1 block. And the first one is specific. And then I'm just going to do the same for the others. So again, H1, and the next one is measurable. Another H1, achievable. Another H1, relevant, and one more H1, and this is time bound. Next, under each heading, I'm also going to add a separator so that it looks a little bit nicer and separates each heading from the text that we're going to add below. So to do that on a new line, I'm just going to type 3 dashes in a row like that, and it's just going to add in a separator or a divider. So I'm just going to do that under each of the headings quickly. Then under each heading, we're going to add a little bit of text that is going to describe what you're supposed to write here. So when you apply this template to your goal, you can actually use this space to write how you're going to make this goal specific. How are you going to measure the goal? How are you going to achieve the goal? So you can use this as a template, but I'm just going to add a little bit of text to help us when we're actually using the template later on. So for example, under specific, I'm going to write something like outline your goal here and be as specific as possible. And I'm also just going to highlight this text here and italicize it. And let's also change the color here to gray, just so that it doesn't stand out quite as much, so it looks like it is just telling us what to write, and we can then delete this and replace it with our actual text. We're going to do the same here. So under measurable, let's write outline how you're going to measure your goal. And again, I'm going to italicize it. You can use Command I on your keyboard to do that as well quickly. And let's just change the text to gray. So here you'll write specifically how you're going to measure that this goal has been achieved. For achievable, I'm going to write, is this goal achievable within the given time frame? Now this one is completely up to you. You can answer this one with just a yes or no answer, or if you want to be more specific, you can give a more detailed response. That's completely up to you what works best for you. For relevant, we're going to say, is this goal relevant to your overall objectives? Again, this is completely up to you if you want to answer this as a yes or no question, or if you want to be really specific and outline exactly why and how it's relevant to your overall objectives. And finally, for time frame, we're just going to put, when do you want to complete this goal by? And we'll say provide a specific date. So you can just input the exact date in here. So that is the template. As I said, I will leave a link in the description box where you can simply just copy and paste this entire thing, including the toggle, as I know it can take a little bit of time to write it all out, but I wanted to just go through each question and outline exactly what you should input underneath each one. So once you've added that, let's click back now onto the main page, and we want to set that template as default so that it's going to be applied to all of the goals that we add into the planner. So to do that, we're going to click again on the downward arrow, and next to new page, this is the actual template we just created. Click on the 3 dots and select set as default, and I'm going to click for all views in Goal Planner. So now that template will be automatically applied whenever we add a new goal. However, because we've already added these, it won't automatically apply it to the ones that are already there. So I'm just going to open each one, and you can actually just select it here. So it's this new page. So I'm just going to click on each of these and just apply the template so that it displays in full on each goal. But as I said, anything that you add from now on, it will do this by default. Next, we're going to add a couple of extra properties to our database. So the first one is going to be a deadline property so that you can see the deadline for each goal. So we're going to add another property and it's going to be a date property. So I'm just going to select this one. Let's name this deadline and you can leave these details as they are. So for each one, let's just set a deadline throughout the year. So for this one, let's put it right at the end of the year for the end of December. So I think it's a good idea to vary the deadlines throughout the year so that you can easily work on goals throughout the year in the different quarters. Next, we also want to add a way to easily measure your progress. Now, if you remember from the template, we have this measurable and it says here, outline how you're going to measure your goal. Now, the best way to measure your goal is using numbers. So that's what we're actually going to do. And we're going to create a progress bar that shows your progress over time as well using those numbers. So we're going to start by adding two number properties. So I'm going to click on here to add a property and it's going to be a number property. Now, the first one, we're just going to name current and let's just make that a little bit smaller. And we're going to add one more number property and this one is going to be the goal. So this is what that will look like. So I'm just going to fill these out for each of these. So the first one is save $10,000. That one's really easy. The goal is going to be 10,000 and the current is going to be whatever you currently have saved. So if you're starting from 0, it's going to be 0. If you've got some saved, you might want to put something like 2,500. If you want to see the numbers with commas as well, you can actually change the format. So if you click on here and select edit property, you can change the number format to number with commas. I personally think it looks nicer with the commas. It's just easier to read big numbers with them. So I'm just going to do that on both. For visit 3 new countries, obviously the goal is therefore going to be 3 because you want to visit 3 countries and your current is wherever you're at. So let's just say you've visited 1 so far. Now for goals like run the London Marathon, this one is completely up to you. You could, for example, break this down into training sessions. Say you have 10 training sessions, you could put your goal as 10 and your current as whatever session you're on. Or if it's a single one-off event, you can just put the goal as 1 and set your current to 0. So once you've completed it, you just change the current to 1. That is probably how I would go about goals like this one. So these numbers are going to allow us to track our progress. So now we're going to use these numbers to create a progress bar so that we can visually see our progress. So to add a progress bar, we're going to add another property and this one is actually going to be a formula property and I'm going to name it progress bar. And let's click edit formula to actually write in our formula. So to create the progress bar, we simply just want a percentage of how far along we are out of 100%. So if you look here in the sidebar, you're going to see all of the properties within our table. So what we want to do is grab our current number and add it in. I'm going to divide, which is a / like this, and we're going to divide that by the goal amount. So this formula is simply just going to divide the current by the goal. If I click save at this point, as you can see, it's now doing that, but I actually want this to display as a percentage rather than 0.25. So to do that, we can actually change the number format here and we're going to change it to a percentage. So as you can see, it's now actually showing a percentage. You will sometimes see awkward numbers like this with lots of decimal points. So we're actually going to add the round function into the formula to round it to 2 decimal points. So let's go back into the formula. So the first thing I'm going to do is just isolate this inside 2 parentheses, so one at the start, one at the end, so we don't mess with the calculation. Then we're going to multiply this entire thing using the star symbol by 1000. Then we want to round this entire thing, so at the start I'm just going to type the words round and open a parentheses, close it again at the end, and finally just divide the entire thing by 1000. And if I click save, as you can see, it's now rounded that number down. Quick interjection, as I'm editing the video, I realized that I never actually switched our progress bar to a progress bar and I just left it as a percentage. So I'm just going to quickly show you how to do that. So in the settings here, all you need to do is just select bar under show as, and it will display, as you can see, as a progress bar like this. As I said, I totally forgot to do this in the video. So for the rest of the video, it will just show as a percentage rather than a bar, but this is what you can do to display the actual progress bar. Next, I want one more property that is going to show our progress in words rather than as a progress bar. So what we're going to do is add one more property, and this is also going to be a formula property, and this one we're just going to name progress. And I'm going to click edit formula. So I want this one to say our current progress and say, for example, you're 2,500 out of 10,000. So firstly, I want it to actually say the words current progress. So to add that into the formula, we're going to add 2 quotation marks like this, and inside just write the words current progress. I'm also going to add a colon like this and a space, as you do need a space in between the words and the number. Let's also add some styling to this piece of text. So I think it would be nice if it was bold and it was a green color. So to do that, we can type the words .style, open a parentheses, and inside we're going to do B like this inside 2 quotation marks, and that's going to bold the text, a comma, 2 more quotation marks, and if we write the word green, that's going to make the text a green color. And then finally, I'm just going to close the parentheses here. Next, we want to add the actual numbers after this. So we're going to add a plus symbol, and next we're going to add in that current number. So if I actually pull the property through from the sidebar, it's automatically just going to pull through whatever this current number is into this formula, and that will update automatically as the current number here updates. We're going to add another plus symbol, and then we need a couple more words in between the current and the goal amount. So we're going to add 2 quotation marks, and we're going to write out of, and you want to add a space at the end and at the start as well, so that the space displays between these words and this number. We're going to add another plus symbol, and finally we also want to add the goal number here. So it'll say your current progress is the current out of goal, and these 2 properties will actually pull through the number in question. So let me click save at this point so we can see what it looks like. So as you can see here, it is pulling through the current and the goal number for each of these. The only downside is if you have a large number like this, unfortunately it won't pull through the comma setting, and you can't actually add that into the formula, so it will just display as a number like this rather than with the comma. That is just the downside, unfortunately. The only thing that I want to change about this formula is once we have actually completed the goal, so let me change this one to 1. Our current progress is 100% as we've completed 1 out of 1. However, I think it would be nice if instead of showing the current progress like this, it changed and instead displayed a message that just said something like, congratulations, you've completed your goal. So we can actually do that if we click back here into the property and edit the property and edit the formula. What we're going to do is add in an if statement. So we're going to say if the current amount is the same as the goal amount, that means obviously we've completed it. If that statement is true, then instead we're going to display something different. So let me just add that in. So I'm going to start by placing my cursor here right at the start, and I'm going to hold down shift and hit enter, and that's just going to move this to the next line. Now on the top line, we're going to write the word if, which is going to be our if statement, and open a parentheses. So now I need to write my statement. So what are we actually going to check is true? So as I said, we're going to check if the current number is equal to the goal number, because if they're equal, that means that we've completed the goal. So we're going to pull through our current, and we're going to check if it's equal. And now in Notion, you do need to put 2 equal signs for this to work rather than just 1. We're going to check if the current is equal to the goal amount, and you're going to add a comma. And now we're going to write what we want to do if this is true. So if they're equal, we actually want to display a congratulations message. So we're going to put 2 quotation marks, and inside let's put something like, congrats, you've achieved your goal. You can also add emojis in here as well. So I'm just going to add an emoji. So I'm just going to add this celebration emoji in there as well. Let's also add a little bit of styling. So I think this would be nice to be bold and green. So I'm just actually going to copy what we put here, this dot style. So you want to copy from the dot all the way to the parentheses. So I'm just going to copy that and paste it right here just after this quotation mark. You then just need to add a comma here as well. So what this is essentially saying is that if the current is equal to the goal, i.e. you've completed it, we're going to display this message, congrats, you've achieved your goal. However, if that isn't true, it will then default to the original, which was this, where it will say your current progress, and it will pull through the current and goal amount. I finally just need to add 1 parentheses at the end here to close off the if statement, and then we can click save. So as you can see on this one, our progress bar has gone to 100%. So this one is now showing our congratulations message. I just want to add one final property before we switch this into the board view that I showed you at the start. And that is going to be a formula that automatically works out what quarter of the year this deadline falls into. And that's going to be really useful so that we can sort the goals based on the quarter. So that is going to be a formula property. So I'm going to click on the plus symbol, type in formula, and let's just name this quarter and click edit formula. So we're going to start by grabbing this deadline formula here, and we actually want to format that into the formula. So what we're going to do is use a function called format date. So I'm just going to start typing that, and you should see it appear here, format date. So the first thing we need to do with this function is tell it which date we want to format. So obviously that's going to be our deadline property. So I'm going to click on that and add it in here. Then we're going to add a comma. And next with format date, you can actually tell it what you want to format. So you can format any part of the date. You could format the entire date. You could format just the year, just the month. You can also format just the quarter, which is obviously what we want to do here. So I'm actually going to put 2 quotation marks and the letter Q. Now in Notion formulas, Notion knows that if you put Q, you are referring to the quarter of the year. So this would bring up a number depending on the quarter of the year. So let me just click save at this point. So as you can see, this one is 4, which makes sense because this date is December. This one is 2, which again is correct because this is April. I also think it would be nice if we formatted this with the Q as well. So it said Q4, Q2, etc. So let's just go back into the formula, and right at the start, we're going to do 2 quotation marks. Inside, we're going to put a Q, and then let me just add a space here and a plus symbol. So this is going to display the letter Q, and then afterwards it's going to display this, which just pulls through the number of the quarter. So if I click save, as you can see, it's now just added the Q in front as well. So now we have everything we need in our table to make our goal planner work. So I'm actually going to switch this to the board view that I showed you at the beginning of the video, which just looks a little bit nicer. So to do that, we're going to click on the 3 dots and select layout, and we're going to change it to a board. Now, usually what happens when you switch something to a board view is it's going to automatically add in a status property and display the goals grouped by status. Now, that's not something that I felt needed to be added to the goal planner. If you want a status property, you can keep it, but I actually want the goals to be grouped based on the quarter. So where it says group by here, we're going to click on there, and we're going to then click on group by again. And that is going to bring up the list of all of the properties. So we're going to select the quarter property. And as you can see, they're now being grouped based on the quarter. I am also going to color the columns. So that just adds this little background to the columns, which I think just makes them stand out a bit more and look a little bit better. So at this point, I don't have a goal for Q1, which is why there is no Q1 column appearing. It's only going to show the columns where you actually have goals. So let me just add one more for Q1 so that we can see that column. So this is what it looks like now with all 4 columns. I do want to see some more of the properties on our card, so we're going to click again on the 3 dots and select properties. And we firstly want to see our progress, so I'm going to just click on this symbol to unhide it, and as you can see, that now displays on the card. Let's show the progress bar and then also the deadline as well. So this is now what it looks like. So as the table is quite big, you might want to use this extra space here. So to do that, we're just going to make the page full width. So if you click on these 3 dots in the top right hand corner, I'm just going to switch on full width. And as you can see, that's just made the page wider so that it actually fits the entire page. So that is the template now all set up. So whenever you want to add a new goal, you can either click on the new page icon here, or you can click on this new button, and that will just bring up this page. So you can write in the name of the goal, and then you can fill out the properties. So let's move deadline to the top, and we'll start by filling out the deadline. You can then set your current, which will usually start at 0, and obviously you can update this as you go. Your goal amount in this case is going to be 3, and these formulas are all going to be worked out automatically. You can delete the status property if you want, or you can keep it if you'd like to keep it. I think I'm just going to delete it for now. And then obviously you can work through this template outlining the specifics of your goal, how you're going to measure it, if it's achievable, if it's relevant, and you can input the time-bound deadline here again as well. And once you've filled out the details, it will then display here in the goal planner. So that is the goal planner. I hope that you found the video useful. If you did, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. If you want to be even more productive, then make sure you check out my Second Brain template, which is an advanced productivity system. It has tons of 5-star reviews from people that have used it. You can grab this template over on my store. I'll leave a link in the description box below.